speakers, Barry and Jody Cline, joined HUPS over a year ago. They live in Eugene, Oregon, a beautiful part of the United States. A little over a year ago, Tom, David, and I were going to Puerto Galera and Anilao, but before we could leave, Taal volcano exploded. We didn't know if we would be able to go. Amy Zamarut, who I met in Cozumel, said she knew of a friend who was over there and might be able to give us details. So I contacted Barry through Facebook, and he sent photos and updates.
Actually, when we got in, we left over in Mantangas, pretty close to where Taal was. So the time we got on the water taxi till we got across, it was about a half-hour ride over to Puerto Galera, Sabang Beach. The volcano had been going off, and so we got off the boat. All these people are looking over our heads, and it's like, what are they looking at? So you turn around, look, and here's the volcano, and it's like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do now? Because we didn't know if we were going to get out of there. I think we had 10 days in Puerto Galera.
We did.
Then we went back to Manila and then flew from Manila to Dumaguete. And then we were in Dumaguete for a week.
Barry and I have been married 36 years this June. And when we got married, we'd both been married before, and I had 2 young kids and he had 1. And then we decided to have 2 more together. So we raised 5 kids. 4 of them were girls. Our son was very disappointed that the 5th one was a girl, although they're very close now. So we were very, very busy. We both had careers, and it was kind of crazy having that many kids in a blended family.
When did you and Jody start diving and taking a camera down?
Probably our first year dive was in 87.
2007.
2000.
That was close.
It was close, 20 years. And we had been diving probably since we did some cold water diving, so probably around 30 dives. We took a trip down to Roatan. And so I had a Canon ELPH laying around, and so we got a case on eBay for it, and I took that down. And worked pretty good the first couple of days, and I flooded it on our 3rd day. We were going through Mary's place, and I was following Jody, and I looked at the camera, and it was about halfway full of water. So that was my first experience with underwater cameras.
How about you, Jody?
Well, I took a long time till I decided to try underwater photography. I used to be a spotter for Barry, but it was only about 4, maybe 5 years ago that in Anilao, we went to a photography workshop, and I still intended to just be a spotter, but luckily Barry had brought a old Canon G10 along, and I got inspired and through the workshop started taking photos then and have been hooked ever since.
I know that you've changed cameras since then. Barry, you probably had several. What are you shooting now?
Currently, I'm shooting an Olympus OMD1 Mark II, and with an Aquatica case. It's really nice to get in a club where it's photographers and with people with expertise, everybody wanting to learn something. And teaching too, because there's a lot of stuff you can get from somebody else. Our local dive club, they dive. And a lot of them don't have the funds or the desire. They don't travel much. They do a lot of cold water diving in lakes, Crater Lake, they'll dive there, the coast here. But there's not that many photographers in the group. So it's been really nice and enlightening to get with other people that enjoy taking pictures.
One thing that I really like about HUPS is that in the photo contest, you have the different divisions between novice and intermediate and advanced. And as a novice photographer, that's really encouraged me to participate. When we got certified, we started with heavy wetsuits, but it only took us a few dives to decide that we really wanted to be dry suit divers. And so we both got dry suits, and by the time we finished certifying, and our first dives that we did up in Nanaimo, Canada, were all dry suit dives. And throughout the rest of the time when we dove in cold water, we'd always be in a dry suit.
It's kind of really comfortable when you get out of the water. You can drop your suit and you're dry. And everybody else is still soaking wet. And if it gets chilly at night or something, they're freezing to death.
I was looking at your photos on Facebook and saw that you 2 dive in one of the local aquariums.
So our local dive shop here in Eugene Skin Divers Supply, is very active in recruiting volunteers and training volunteers to volunteer over at the aquarium. So we got started through them. The aquarium here is Oregon Coast Aquarium in Newport, and they have 3 different exhibits. 2 are have rockfish. The other one has halibut and sturgeon, and they're about 48 degrees. And then the third one, Barry might talk about a little bit.
Is the open ocean, which is a little bit warmer because they have some leopard sharks, which are California sharks, and then they have the 6-gill sharks up here were the big ones that they had. They had 6 or 7 of them at that time. And then they have bat rays. They'll have schools of anchovies in there for bait fish, for things to eat. They'll have a school of salmon, different fish in there swimming around the whole exhibit.